G'day, Pete.
Hi, Kat. Is it the afternoon or morning? I'm never sure.
I don't know what that was. All right. Today, we are tackling a question that you and I get a lot, and I think a lot of execs struggle with. What is the difference between innovation and transformation?
That's a good question, Kat. Hey, you got a definition, hopefully.
Here's my premise.
Here's your premise. Okay, here we go.
Innovation is all about new ways of doing things, new products, new services, new way of serving a customer. Transformation is how you change the way that your business operates to take advantage of it, whether it's people, process, technology, culture.
Or all of those, probably.
And getting it wrong is kind of like buying the gym membership in January and never turning up to the gym.
Well, it's more like buying three gym memberships and not using any of them.
Or is it like buying the really flashy gym outfit but never being able to fit into it?
Or maybe just don't wear it to the gym.
I feel like we got sidetracked.
I think we did, actually. They're probably good premises for a starting part of the conversation. Let's go with that.
Let's start with innovation. Do you agree? New products, new services.
I like part of what you said is more about new ways of doing things, because I think sometimes innovation is always just seen as the new flashy, versus sometimes it's actually just changing how we're fundamentally doing work today in a new or an innovative way. So I think sometimes continuous improvement gets masked a little bit as innovation, but I think having this mindset is more important about how we're challenging what we do and never just resting that where we are is good enough, I think is really important as a mindset.
And so then transformation is more about what needs to change to be able to deliver on innovation?
I think you can't have one without the other. All right. So organizations who just say, hey, we've just transformed and we don't end up having innovation, we're not going to survive. Today's organizations more so than ever, you have to find a way to be innovative. And if there's a need of the organization to transform, you're going to have done that to get the foundations right to make that a reality. So I don't think you can have one without the other.
One of the ways I often explain it to people, and I think you've heard me use this one, I tried to use it a couple of weeks ago and it failed miserably.
Oh, really?
And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
It's the Wizard of Oz story.
Oh, we've played with this one with the transformation office actually a few times.
I tried to use this with someone and they said to me they didn't know what Wizard of Oz was. They'd never seen it or heard of it. And I was, am I that old? Anyway, here's my Wizard of Oz analogy.
Who are you talking to?
Oh, my God. Here's my Wizard of Oz analogy. For me, innovation is like the Emerald City. It's, the magic, the art of the possible, the place we all want to get to, the vision, it's the goal. Yeah. Transformation is the yellow brick road that gets you there. And if you think about the yellow brick road, there's Dorothy and she has to work with a lot of different types of people and personalities to successfully get to the Emerald City. Yeah. Whether it's the Lion or the Scarecrow, and they all work differently and they've all got different perspectives. And I feel like that actually tells the transformation story really well, because a lot of what we do is how you drive organizational change, how you use technology in a way that actually gets you to the Emerald City.
Yeah, well, tech is only one part of getting you to the end, the Emerald City in this case. And I do like the analogy because I think you think about all of those different characters being the different stakeholders and their different needs about how they're going to follow the yellow brick road, but ultimately they have a vision and a purpose and an intention about where they're going. And yes, you're going to have some trips along the way. I'm trying to remember the story really well. But
hey, does that mean AI is like the ruby slippers?
Maybe.
Can I get a pair of those?
A pair of ruby slippers?
Next time I'm on stage, I'm going to wear some ruby slippers.
Wow.
Tap my heels 3 times.
I don't think it fits our color coordination scheme.
What happens when you get all innovation and no transformation? Cool stuff on top of broken systems?
In part, I think if you're just putting Band-Aids over the top all the time, eventually you're going to slow down because you're going to need modern core systems and ways of working and operating models around those things to really unlock true levels of innovation. But again, I think sometimes we think innovation is always just, like the new sexy product that we're going to launch tomorrow and that it's going to take the world by storm.
You say transformation's not sexy because I take offense to that, Pete.
Really?
No.
But I think when you think about innovation, like that's where a lot of people go to is they go, but it's going to be these new big sexy things, but it doesn't always have to be. It can just be fundamentally improving what you're doing from day-to-day work for people in the customer call centers or for your HR business partners or, So I think the mindset shift has to come from transformation. It has to come from the culture. It has to come from the belief of what the organization's trying to achieve and to free up the capacity for innovation in my mind.
In a past life of mine, I led a project where we built these incredible dashboards, and it was the first time we'd brought visibility across this entire business into one place. And so it was incredible. It was awesome. It looked sexy, Pete. It was sexy.
Just put a sexy PowerPoint, or was it actually
No, it was a sexy real-time dashboard.
Real-time
the
dashboard.
data was real-time.
Did people use it?
It was that you just told my story. The innovation was incredible.
Right.
What we didn't do
Right.
is teach people how to use it and why they would want to use it and what value they could get from it. So guess what they did, Pete? Export to Excel, fudge the numbers, send it in an email. And so all this incredible work we'd done and this incredible piece of innovation we'd brought to the business flopped because we forgot that you have to bring people on the journey.
Got it. And that's to go back to, if the transformation hasn't designed the culture and the vision the way we want to operate, then you're not, and to have, because I've seen this time and time and again with organizations, they start to get into this, they see real-time information and it's almost like a panic happens because they see the score go red and they go, all right, everyone, red alert, we got to run down, it's the red flags. But it doesn't mean that. It just means, how do you ask different questions in that moment in time? And I think, and so then we fall back to old ways of working really, really quickly, which is, well, let's put it in a PowerPoint. Let's look at it a month too late. I remember like this with, remember SLAs with contracts, you remember your days at IBM?
Yeah.
Why did it used to take like 20 days to build me an SLA report to tell me how the thing was performing? Like, you're modern technology organizations. Why can't I see this information? But there was this negative perception, which is, you're going to penalize me when you see the score go bad.
Manage the red.
Whereas I'm going, actually, no, what I want to do is, if it's a red, what are we doing to fix it and how we make it? Because it's having an impact on the business.
I've also seen examples where there's been great transformation, but we failed on the innovation.
Yeah.
And I think a classic example of that was a situation where a company did a great job of digitizing the call center and changing the way the call center works amongst themselves. But they never sat back and asked the question, do our customers actually want to call the call center? And I feel like when you have transformation without the innovation, you might be missing the piece, which is delivering on what the customer wants, the inspiration, that makes them passionate and engaged and loving your brand. You might completely transform the way that you work, but if what you're doing for the customer is not what they want, how much value is that?
Like, well, it's back to your dashboard example. Like, if we build all this great tech, but we weren't clear about the problem we're solving and the impact it's going to have, and then we don't talk to those people, like, maybe they never wanted the dashboard. Or they, same thing with the call center. Like, again, where they plan, do our customers want to call a call center? Actually, they probably just want the service. So what's broken in the service that we're having to force people to call a call center to either recover in those elements? So I think, again, for me, that's always becomes really important. We've got to stop having this conversation, which is tech trying to solve a problem. We've got to understand the problem we're solving. And like the stats, I think, on transformation programs, like still like 1 in only 6 are successful. And their ability to sustain it beyond 2 or 3 years drops even further.
Surely one of the most famous case studies of innovation without transformation is Kodak. Invented the digital camera in the 70s and then did not fundamentally transform the way their business operated and the way that they generated revenue to the point where every other company copied the digital camera and won the market, and they ended up having to file for bankruptcy.
Yeah. Well, there's a few different.
My kids wouldn't even know what Kodak is.
No, but it was like the Atari system, beta videos. Like, beta video was better than VHS. Yeah, correct.
You're a beta household.
That's
a touchy subject.
Yeah, it was better tech at the time, but again, lost.
It's very embarrassing walking into the video shop and you had to go to that one little 2-shelf area and VHS.
Well, the old Blockbuster stores, walking the aisles and working out whether, is my video available? No, we've got to wait for Jimmy to bring it back again.
Well, and I mean, that's another great example. Not so much Blockbuster, but Netflix. Because Netflix they did the innovation and the transformation. They created streaming platforms and they completely changed their revenue model and the way that their business operated so that they could capitalize on streaming platforms.
Well, it's the same conversation that we have like with Uber. Like, fundamentally, it's still a taxi service that takes you from A to B. What do? They digitize the process and provide you visibility of who was picking you up, how far away it was, and the ability to track it. And now taxi organizations are catching up to that. But do they rewrite how you get from A to B? No.
They did make it a lot more enjoyable.
In some cases. You still get in a car with a stranger.
So I think we agree you need both. Two sides of a coin.
Yeah. And they're very different speeds and things, but I think you need transformation to fundamentally think about how your operating model and the purpose of the organization, and if that needs to shift in the industry or the areas you're focusing on.
And I think we've already touched on this both today and in other podcasts, but really just the critical element of people in building the bridge between innovation and transformation.
Yeah. We're still people-led businesses. Yes, we've got great technology and we can use that technology in really new ways to help us solve problems that we couldn't do before, or generate new ideas and the volume of ideas that we wouldn't have been able to do before. And I think, but finding ways of doing that, but understanding the impact and the purpose of the organization still has to be the number one thing. And I think you have to understand, like, we need a vision, we need leadership, and we're going to have to design the culture we want. And we're going to, I heard a phrase yesterday. I think it was watch in, so rather than, we would generally talk about, the behavior you walk past is the behavior you accept. This was more about actually calling out in moments of when you actually see positive behavior that you're trying to encourage. And that was just a really...
That's what we do with children, Pete.
Yeah, exactly. That's the concept. But you see it and you encourage it. And so this was, again, it was from a footballer, actually. And it just sort of shifted my mind and how we were thinking about it for people, and going, actually, how do you watch people in the moment and call that out?
We actually do it a lot. It's had nothing to do with technology, but life skills and people. We actually do it a lot in basketball as well, because particularly in junior basketball, where you don't have a lot of stats captured, the stat they capture is points scored and fouls.
Yeah.
Nobody's capturing passes made. And
assists.
It's really challenging as you're bringing kids up through basketball. You want to encourage them to pass the ball, because teams win championships,
Correct.
but individuals end up on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
And a big part of that, and you'll hear good parents do it on the sideline, and great coaches do it on the sideline. When someone does a great pass,
Correct.
everyone's cheering out great pass, not just clapping the person that scored the points.
Yeah, because we can't all be the striker on the football game. We can't all be the tall guard at the end of the AFL to kick the goal. We're not all that way, but teams are built on individuals, but individuals having an understanding of the purpose and intent and what they're designing and where they're going as a team.
Every single podcast for us comes back to parenting, our age, and sport.
Or drinking.
Yes. Yes.
That's where this started, to be fair.
True. Okay, so practical tips for people who are trying to balance innovation and transformation.
Practical tips. If I think back in my time in leading large teams and organizations, I think there are great people who are pushing the boundaries. Find them and empower them and give them the opportunity to thrive. I think too often we start with this really big thing versus going, it's actually probably happening, and we're just not putting the spotlight on it or watching in the moment and highlighting enough for people. So I think when you take on teams, we're too quick to rush to, I know all the answers we want to change, versus going, actually, there's probably some real goodness. And how do I put fuel on that fire and allow it to be seen? And that's what you were probably going to create. And then, because designing the big programs takes time. You've really got to get buy-in. You've got to build a vision. And just because I might have a view on where that vision is, I've learned over a long period of time is that having the conversations and testing those ideas actually gets much better outcomes in my mind. And so I love sitting back in conversations now and watching things, and watching ideas sort of permeate and get better. And then even my own thinking about, how would I be thinking about that differently now? And so I think that's, for me, they're the keys you have to focus on. How about you, Kate?
I agree. And I would also add to that, setting aside resources for both. Yeah. So budget, not just budget, but people, time, focus, decisions, making sure that you are challenging the business to innovate, but also always questioning, are we driving the right change that's going to support that innovation?
Yep.
And then the second one for me is really around making sure that you're measuring success on both sides. Yeah. So yes, have KPIs around how you're bringing new products to market, how you're generating new revenue streams, how you're improving, customer satisfaction, but also have KPIs around how you're driving change and adoption. And are you creating capacity to scale? Are you unlocking productivity in the business?
Yeah. So you've got to understand, like, when you think about the programs, what are you going to measure? How are you, because you're going to, like, on all programs, and I have this conversation a lot with customers, they start off with a plan, but they don't have any measurement points about what they define as success. And we always know that somewhere during the project, it's going to go off the rails and you're going to have to make difficult decisions. But you need a framework and a set of hey, how am I testing that new idea, that new concept on the impact that we're going to have to the business? If it's going to be a negative impact, maybe we need to go back and think about how we do it differently. If it's going to be a positive impact, great. And it might be the thing we want to accelerate. But if you don't have that sort of endpoint and those measurements you're going to drive into, it's very easy to make a decision and realize you probably stepped off the yellow brick road and went somewhere else.
Back on the yellow brick road in my ruby slippers.
Correct.
I would sum it up as saying innovation gets you attention, transformation gets you results. And if you don't have both, you'll get neither.
Correct. So back to your original thing is, I don't think it's possible for organizations just to focus on one. You have to have elements of both. It's just you might have to pour more focus into the transformation effort depending on where you are and the time of your organization versus pushing the innovation engine higher.
So the most important question of today, Pete, if this is Wizard of Oz, which character are you? Because clearly I'm Dorothy. I've got the ruby slippers.
Wow.
Glinda?
Who? Can I be the lion?
Okay, you heard it here first. Pete is the... Wait,
well,
isn't he a coward?
I don't know. I was actually going to go with Tin Man, to be fair.
You've got no heart?
Well, not so much no heart, but I think it's... Actually, I don't know. We're going to have to cut
like
this.
An existential crisis.
I really don't know
I
the
thought you
character.
were Glinda the Good Witch.
Glinda the Good Witch. Maybe that's
I
the
could see you in a bubble floating down from above.
I like
Join us on the next episode. Pete's going to sing from The Wizard of Oz. From Wicked, I'm thinking.
Nobody wants to hear Pete
All right, we're
sing.
going to end this now because it's just going off the rails. It's great to see you, Pete. I'll see you next time.
Thanks so much, Kat.
You.
Always a joy.